Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation bringing you guys a game between Fnatic and Kaipi Gaming. This is going to be a best of one for the quarterfinals to decide who's going to be advancing on forward. Both teams really need the points. Kaipi, I believe if they don't get anything here, they are going to be completely eliminated. They're not going to be able, they're still going to play next week, but it's not going to be for any opportunity to get on into the top 4 slots, which is the big thing. That's where the money's at, is getting in, qualifying for the Premier Cup, as in most playoff circumstances. So, yeah, Kaipi desperately need the win to actually move on forward. Fnatic could also really use it. They are number 5, and if they're going to be able to unseat either who's right above them, the Virtus Pro, or that of Mouse Sports. Those are going to be the two teams that they need to beat on out, and really they need to step up their game as well if they're going to be able to qualify on forward. So we'll see exactly how much opportunity there is in that, but right now it all starts with this game. If Kaipi does not win this, they will not be able to move on forward to the Premier Cup, and that will be unfortunate for them. But starting things off, thank you guys so much for tuning on into the Season 5 Daedalus Cup. This is going to be one of our, actually it's going to be our last quarterfinal game, as unfortunately Alliance is not going to be able to, they have network issues, they have internet issues, and they're not going to be playing against EG later on. But for right now, this is going to be our last quarterfinal game, and it's going to be Kaipi versus Fnatic. Thank you guys so much for tuning on in. I am Blaze. Here's Triumph. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the follow-up matches. I think, like you said, both of these teams really need to walk away with a win tonight, or at least second place in terms of Fnatic, but Kaipi really want to lock down a win. And in this case, this is pretty much stars aligning for them, because the winner of this match would go on to face the winner of Alliance versus EG. And as much as I love EG, let's be fair, it's freaking Alliance. But in this case, Alliance, like you said, they're out. They're not able to play because they have no internet. So for Kaipi or Fnatic here to have a shot at taking out the cup tonight, this is probably their best case scenario. The Alliance are missing tonight. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I also should point out that the only cup that EG have won was Cup 1. And that was also one which Alliance were missing for as well, because they were busy. They were on a plane to China, so they were unable to play in that one as well.
Yep. So
for all three teams, I've got to say, a pretty decent result for them in terms of the biggest dog not being around tonight. But that said, Kaipi open up with the Naga Siren, of course, OD being banned out along with the Keeper of the Light. OD, like I said, just becoming, teams are really starting to get sick of this guy. He is a huge pest, and he's he's almost viable the entire game. He hits like a truck early game, provides support in terms of sustain, in terms of mana sustain for his team, and then he just brings, he has huge team pipeline. Sanity clips wreck teams, just obliterate them. That said, with Kaipi banning out, this opens it up for Fnatic. They go, oh, well, alright then, well, if you're taking out the OD, let's just draft that puck straight away. They don't have to worry about that now. So, that said, I'm wondering what Kaipi have up, if they want it for something like a puck as well, or if they were just saying, OD's OD, let's just get rid of him.
Yeah. I mean, in general, the big thing about OD is not just how great he is as far as laning and team fighting, but in general how effective he is at shutting down certain picks. There's so many great heroes in the pool that if they are faced one-on-one against an OD, will be rendered fairly useless throughout the early stage of the game as a result of that laning phase, just going 100% in favor of the Outworld Devourer. So that's just a really frustrating things for them to deal with. They take it out, but yeah, that puck does get picked up, I believe, by Hani instead of by Arteezy. So that's going to be interesting to see him play it with his style, as opposed to the way Arteezy would have preferred that. But of course, they do have the Naga Siren. It has been run mid multiple times over. Also, Nyx Assassin, although preferred to be in the support role, can at times also steamroll very effectively in the mid. So we'll see exactly who's going to be going up against the puck there. Not an easy task for any hero, but Naga Siren and Nyx Assassin can both be managed.
I'd say Nyx, I actually think they could play. I think Nyx Assassin wrecks puck mid, and it comes down to the fact that you can't really harass in CS with Illusory Orb, because it's pretty much a big fat, oh, please stun me with Carapace, because it travels so slow. It's very easy just to walk into it and slap it with Carapace. And Mana Burn is just, Puck does not like it. That just slaps him around so hard. So between Carapace and Mana Burn, Puck just gets zoned, he gets pushed out of the lane really quick. But pretty much he's down to auto attack harassing. And if you open up with the early bottle, with the stout, with the early bottle, Nyx Assassin is going to be fine. The only advantage Puck has there is he has better rune control. And Nyx Assassin can't really burst down the waves to force him back to the tower. Yeah. So he has that, but at the same time, he doesn't really have a lot of power to push Nyx out of the lane. As you mentioned, though, Nyx is still very strong as a support role, so he could well wind up in support in this situation, but we'll see what they've got in mind for that. But I'm just looking to continue on bans. And speaking of OD, honestly, I think there is like one hero at the moment who can reliably, like even have the potential to beat him in the mid lane. He's that damn good in a 1v1 situation. And I feel like the only hero that has that potential right now is probably Lone Druid. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need his mana. He doesn't really care if you steal or his damage. He harasses with a bear and he doesn't care if you imprison him because the bear still beats the crap out of you while you're busy imprisoned. So I think short of running like a dual lane against him, that's the only real way to like, beat him in the lane right now.
See, I was going to go with Dwarven Sniper, but, you know, Lone Druid, it seems a little more meta-relevant, you know.
I suppose, yeah, Dwarven Sniper has the potential as well, just we don't ever see Dwarven Sniper. You know what? Both these, like Kaipi and Fnatic, they're two teams that when they're hot, they are hot shit. They are so tough to beat, but both teams are inconsistent as hell. Like, sometimes they're hot, other times they just suck balls. So, you know what? I mean, either one of them could throw in something weird like a Dwarven Sniper. I mean, Fnatic generally do lines of coke and do weird stuff all the time, and it's fun as hell to watch. Kaipi, on the other hand, like they favor having a huge right clicker, a late game right clicker, and in this case, it could be Naga Siren, or she could be a support role. I mean, we see her played in support role, and if they're playing a defensive Tron, you could say, you know what? Well, if we think you're going to throw a Darkseer against us, a good choice to go Gyrocopter and then have Nyx and Naga support. I mean, that's always a possibility.
Yeah.
But
I would say that like Naga Siren or Nyx have to be a core, one or the other, because together as two supports, they're both melee, and although they have decent lockdown, they don't have that really extra oomph on damage until Nyx Assassin gets Vendetta. So I think as far as like lane harassment wise, I think that Naga Siren or Nyx has to be solo. Not necessarily both of them have to solo to get good, relevant experience in gold, but definitely one of them, because as a pair, I just don't see them supporting effectively.
Honestly, I feel like Nyx is probably going to wind up at mid. The two carries that Kaipi tend to favor the most, the three carries that tend to favor, they sort of rotate between, like, they like to play Void a lot. We'll see Envy play a lot of Void. The other choices are Anti-Mage and Cancer Lancer. They play them a lot as well. Lone Druid also being picked up as well. I feel like Lone Druid in this case probably going to be an offlaner. I think he's going to take the suicide lane. I think Naga's going to wind up in the safe lane, and Nyx is either a support, like Naga will be a support or should be a core, one of the two, and Nyx will take that mid. That's my gut feeling at the moment. Should also continue on the bans though. We do have the anti-mage ban. I think Fanatics also feel the same. They feel like Naga Siren might potentially be a support, so they're banning out the anti-mage because it's a hero that Kaipi tend to pick up a lot.
Yeah. It's one of their favorites to run for Eternal Envy, and it's definitely something that they're happy to take off the board here. One thing I like about the Lone Druid is because at the state of the draft where they picked up the Syllabear, they didn't really know how Fnatic's tri-lane was going to work. They didn't know if it was a very aggressive one, defensive one. So nice thing about Lone Druid as an offlaner is not only is he great at surviving in the offlane, but if he had to go 1v1 against a Darkseer while Fnatic goes for an aggressive tri-lane, that would work for him too. He could still go ahead and actually handle Darkseer pretty decently by himself, and in that position it's very flexible. It can handle a lot of different matchups. Like you're saying, it can even handle the OD under the right circumstances. So yeah, in general, I think that they were prepared to do what they needed to with him, but now they're also going to pick up the Razor, which definitely is going to make Fnatic hesitate about their next set of drafting, because it isn't the hero that we usually see. It will work here very well because of a combination of armor reductions through Riptide and through Eye of the Storm. It really means that all their physical damage output, even if Naga's right clicks aren't enhanced by items significantly, still Lone Druid and Razor are going to be able to output a ton of damage, and it's on the back of Naga's Riptide and Razor's ulti.
That is, yeah, I do like that. That is definitely a strong combination. The other thing is Naga Siren. I think I like the team. Like right now, Naga Siren's got a lot of setup, and the thing to have against Naga Siren, like Song of the Siren, is huge pain in the ass when it sets up a fight. But as we've seen in the past, one of the best counters to the Naga Siren is to have a big counter initiator. And right now, they sort of have that. They have the Darkseer there, and if they can land, like right now, if they don't immediately stun the Darkseer coming out of the Song of the Siren, if Darkseer lands a big vacuum, if they all cluster in and the Darkseer throws in a vacuum and then Puck combos off that, that could be what they need. That said, having something like a Black Hole or the Black Hole or the Chronosphere is definitely favorable, but unfortunately they don't really have the option to pick that up at the moment. I suppose they could try and throw in a Chrono, although I don't really feel like they should try and go for Void because he's too late game. I feel like Kaipi, they're looking for sort of that 25 to 30 minute mark where Razor is going to be huge because he can just build tanky items because he gets all the damage in the world out of the static link. Naga Siren is fairly effective with the nukes early on. Lone Druid, of course, can hit his stride very quickly if he gets the right items early on as well. even with Armlet not really being a viable choice from anymore, if you just go for the Battle Bear with the Maelstrom, or even if you just try to open up with something dumb like a pair of bashes, you can, you get a couple of lucky bashes off on somebody. It's a huge headache to have to deal with because he's tanky as hell, and with Demolish they can tear down towers really, really quickly. And of course, Razor's ult, I'm pretty sure it slams buildings as well, so they can tear down towers very, very quickly.
Yeah.
That said, they do have some sustain on Fnatic's side. Chen, if you can pick up the earlier mech, will be a bit of a pest to deal with, and they don't have huge magical bursts at the moment either, so they won't really need to look for stuff like an early pipe. So if Chen gets the mech, and that frees up Darkseer to do weird things like go for, even if Chen's getting a mech, that opens up Darkseer to just go for something like a cheap survivability, and then go for a Blink Dagger.
Yeah.
And Blink Dagger on Darkseer, I think, is really often overlooked. It is very, very powerful in terms of initiation. If Darkseer and Puck blink together, you can pretty much wipe a team with that. And now if you throw a Lifestone on the mix of that, I think that's a big threat for Kaipi to have to worry about if they're trying to push early on.
This last pick was a really, really hard decision for Fnatic, and it almost seems like this entire draft Kaipi set up is to bait them into picking Lifesteal. They ban out the Morphling, they ban out the Gyrocopter and Alchemist. They're like, Era, you love Nakes, you can have him. But we have a Naga Siren to ensnare him, we have a Lone Druid to entangle him, we have a Razor to steal his damage output, and along with that, trying to chase down a Razor with open wounds, good luck. You're just going to get purged up, and in general, it's going to be really, really hard for the Lifesteal to stay on target because of Lone Druid, because of all these tools that I just mentioned. And adding on top of that Bone 7's Clockwork, all they wanted Fnatic to do right there was pick the Lifestealer. They've been building this entire draft around it, but that being said, Era is so darn good at Lifestealer that it almost seems worth it nevertheless. They still pick it up, they think about it for a very long time, the reserve time ticks on down, but in the last few seconds they decide, we're going for it. We know draft-wise it's not the best choice, but player to hero, there's not a better combination than Era and his Lifestealer there. So we'll see how effective it's going to be. Kaipi, though, are ready to deal with that specifically. Still feels like a very Fnatic-esque lineup, though. Hani on his mid Puck, No Tail on his Chen, one of the best in the entire world, really, alongside Ake there. It's just really, really impressive to see all these different players on these heroes, and in general, Fnatic playing to their strong points, but Kaipi trying a very unique counter draft.
Well, I'm looking at Fnatic, I'm not too, obviously, like you said, Era is sort of counted in the form of Razor. Razor being the king, Nags does not like being kited, and Razor's kind of the king of kite. That said, I think Fnatic going, you know what, let's just stick to our guns. We've got the Alpha Strike here. We can land a huge Alpha Strike with Puck. If they can land the big Puck Nags bomb, they could quite easily lock Razor in place with the Dream Coil, the Waning Rift to keep him silenced for a bit. They have that potential. They will need to watch for the counter initiation with Clock. Song, I think the biggest issue is they're going to try and Nags bomb, and then Naga's going to sing. That's my biggest problem with this. That's what worries me a lot, because if they Nags bomb and then Naga sings and Nags is raged up, that just means Nags gets focused 1v5 and destroyed. So that, I think, is going to be the biggest issue. They're going to have to force these fights around when Naga doesn't have her song. So they're going to have to split push quite a bit until they can sort of either pick Naga off or fight when her song is down.
Wow. So this Sentry Ward is going to find out the Observer down on the bottom rune spawn. It's going to force No Tail to actually go for an Observer Ward here on the mid to make sure that there's not going to be good flank to ganks. Because what they need to do is put emphasis on Arteezy's Lone Druid. Putting the Lone Druid on the mid here, although it is going to allow him to get the experience and gold he would the same way in the offlane, it does make him vulnerable to ganking. Fnatic wants to roam, smoke up, and be very, very aggressive against his Lone Druid, and try to get that bear both on cooldown and in the grave. If you can kill the bear and he can't resummon it, that completely eliminates the potential for Lone Druid to go for the laning. Right now, blocking off the mid, we do see, it looks like it's going to be, I can't be a mid Rubik. I mean, looking at his items, he's so supportive. So we're going to see Hani, Hani, of course, transitioning back to where he belongs, but first things first, they're taking out some illusions, and it looks like Hani's taking his time getting to his laning position.
I mean, if Lone, like you said, it does open Lone Druid up to some ganks. I mean, if he's really worried about getting jumped, though, I feel like they can just do, what we see Bulldog do all the time, is just grab a whole bunch, he can just jack the creep wave and then drag it back to a safe position behind the towers, if he's really feeling like he's in danger there in terms of being ganked. That said, he will need to worry about it for sure. And also Puck, I think the other problem is Puck can actually put some pretty decent harass on him as well. He will need to watch out for that. Puck is definitely fairly difficult to lane against in terms of harass, because he can jump in there, and he can play fairly aggressively due to his skill set as well. He can always jump in, and he doesn't worry too much, even at level 5. Even when level 5 kicks in, he's not too worried about the roots. He can phase shift, he can throw out the illusory orb, get away. I think probably the bigger issue right now is Trixie is going to have a rough time up here because he can't really spam Iron Shell when he's being mana burned all the time. So he's going to throw in the Iron Shell. Look, he's out of mana now. It's 2 mana burns, and he's thrown 1 Iron Shell, and he's completely out. This is really going to impact. I think he needs to abandon. He's almost going to have to abandon this lane and just go and farm the jungle. And Trixie's one of those players who, when he gets pushed out of a lane, his first instinct is not to actually go and farm the jungle, is to go and try and gank. You'll see him do things like offlane with Tidehunter, stuff like that. And if he gets forced at lane, if it's too rough, he'll just go and try and gank mid and pressure mid. But in this case with the Darkseid, he can't really do that. Darkseid's a hero, needs a bunch of levels before he can manage it. It's not like he just has access to a gush and off he goes. So I think in this case, he's just going to go stack, go and farm, and just do that. Maybe follow No-Tail around a bit. But, of course, that means they're going to have a lot of pressure on their own jungle. Like, there's going to be pretty busy. They're going to have Rubik trying to pull, they're going to have Chen trying to farm, and now they're throwing a Darkseer in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There is going to be a lot of action in that jungle, but with good stacking from Fly, it'll set up Darkseer to get a relatively well-timed first item. It looks like Trixie's going to head back up top here and just refilled on mana. Going to go for another Ion Shell here. Of course, he is not getting experience, but he is getting some gold here. And one important thing about the supports, this is kind of what I was talking about before, is they don't really have that great potential to both do damage and lock down. They can do one or the other. Naga Siren starting with Riptide, not with the Ensnare. The Nyx Assassin starting with Mana Burn, not his stun. So really, they can force Trixie back, and with great positioning, they've actually made sure he doesn't get any experience, but they can't necessarily get a kill. Not for quite a long time, so that's going to be Trixie's opportunity to at least cause further annoyances up on top and get some cash for himself. Meanwhile, on mid lane, we are going to see Orb on cooldown, so that Honey's going to take some harassment from the bear, but it's actually going to be Paladin who takes the most, and with their high roll Test of Faith, they're actually going to get it. That was nearly a maxed out Test of Faith. It can do from between 50 and 100 pure damage. Combining that together, No-Tail getting the Test of Faith, getting the Shockwave off, they were actually able to bring down the Nyx Assassin because, again, he had no stun, he had no Carapace, and then, of course, on top of that, No-Tail denies that as Satyr to the point that there's absolutely nothing gained for Kaipi.
Yeah, I don't really mind the fact that Naga Siren went for the Riptide first, mostly because Ned at level 1 is only a 2-second stun anyway, well, 2-second disable anyway, so it's not. I doubt they would have killed the Darkseer regardless. That said, with the Darkseer, with the Nyx rotating away from the lane, this opens up Darkseer. Now that he knows the mana burn is there, he can quite happily come in and start throwing down the Iron Shells of the show. So this is going to get Trixie back up to where he needs to be. This is definitely a good result for him there, as it looks like he is going to get a fair, like he's going to hit level 2, level 3 out of this. He's already got level 2, he should hit level 3 fairly shortly on. Now, one thing I want to look at though, of course, is the Nyx versus Solo, or actually not really Solo, I guess. Of course, he's got the backup there from Fly. Fly has been helping him out. But it's the Nyx versus the Clockwork again. Clockwork is actually doing quite well. He's had the rotation away from his lane. He's picked up level 4 already, so he's doing quite well in this situation. He hasn't got that many last hits. He's been playing fairly defensively, but he's been hanging around in range for experience. That's it, top lane. Trixie now, getting mana burn, doesn't have any mana for Surge. There's the stun coming out now. He's already used Riptide, got no armor at the moment. No, looks like they won't bring him down. Stout Shield going to keep him in the mix here, unless they can throw out another stun. Oh, wow, Riptide comes out.
Is he going to die? Come with me, he's going to die! Oh my gosh, wow! Oh my gosh, that's the problem. That's it though. Like they would get like 3 extra auto attacks if they were like 600 range heroes, but they're melee. So that Riptide not finishing off Trixie allowed him to salve, and then Come With Me didn't salve himself. I don't know if he didn't think the tower would kill him or what, but he didn't use his salve, and he just got killed by Trixie. Actually, I don't even know if he got the credit. Yes, he did get the credit for that. So that was just everything that could have gone wrong there, and now Trixie has the Soul Ring.
Like I said, with these teams, like these two teams, where they're great, but sometimes they make some really questionable plays. Mid lane, no Fly, invisible, picks up, I think that's Arteezy there, so he's going to jump in, Hanny, jump in, Waiting Rift as well, a couple auto attacks, one more should finish him. There we go, Lone Druid gets picked off. His Tranquil's being disabled, unfortunately too slow there, and No-Tail is also moving in as well, but they're going to actually grab No-Tail, but I think this is a questionable jump in here. Could result in a kill, will get the kill, but the counterattack is on now as well. Paladai going to give away a kill to Hanny, but now Bone 7 moving in. He's moving in with the battery assault, getting the stuns in on Hanny. Will he bother for a call? I don't think he'll go for a call. Open wounds now. Here comes Era. There we go, phase shift as well. Hanny will go down, but here we go. Another kill probably coming out on Bone 7. Infest jumps out. There's a kill, but here's the bear. Is it level 5? Yes, they do have level 5 there. Doesn't proc a root though.
Yeah, no, I mean, the position there, the Nyx Assassin shouldn't have gone in unless they had the Clockwork rotating. Luckily, they did, so they were able to get the kill on Puck because, of course, the Clockwork closed the distance, got his battery assault ticking, and finally the cogs. And since Hani didn't have enough mana, he couldn't orb away. But on top of that, when there's a Clockwork rotating, there might also be a Lifesteal rotating. In this case, Era finding perfect opportunity to TP in, phase on across, and get a kill for himself. So as a whole, I think Fnatic are really happy about how that exchange went down.
I mean, yeah, they definitely got some good experience out of it. I mean, sure. I think Nick's Assassin and Naga went in and said, sure, alright, you might kill us back in return, but right now they're hurting for, they want some experience. And Nick's got in there, got a kill. I think the only real problem is the fact that Puck picked up the counter kill there, so it's going to push him towards that sort of the Blink Dagger early on, because he's been doing fairly well. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. He's been getting manhandled pretty hard in that lane. I mean, it's 6 minutes in, and he's 16 and 10. That's not great, now that I look at it. So he's not looking towards that early Blink Dagger. So, I mean, getting that kill for him is pretty big. He needs that extra money pretty badly. That said, they got the counter kill almost immediately. Top lane, though, Trixie getting it picked off again. The damage is too much for him. And this is going to be, it's going to be how well does Envy get out of control here in comparison to the Nags. And I think Envy, due to the lineup, has an advantage here. You were talking about it earlier, just the fact that they can shut down the Nags really hard with their skill set. And the fact that they're going to have Song. Song is going to be such a huge issue. It's going to set up these fights. And Nags is going to have to be really, really careful about when he rages and when he doesn't rage, because he can leave him in a really bad position.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just, I mean, that's exactly how it's going to be, is Era's constantly wondering about it. Like, there are some games where Lifesteal even wants to go Blink Dagger, and I almost feel like this is one of those, just because he's going to be really, really hurting as far as mobility, and he can either go race car or just actually jump around with those kind of items. But either way, we're going to see Fly and No Tail rotate up top, helping out Trixie here. This is the point in time where that Nyx and Naga combo starts working. They have damage, they can right-click him, they can reduce his armor, and they can burn him down with enough disable. But now that they feel confident about this, this is No Tail's opportunity to come on in. Unfortunately, No Tail leading the pack wasn't the right move there, and him getting dispelled via smoke, just walking too close to Nyx Assassin, was actually a really, really poor positioning mistake by them. So Hylotta is able to walk away from that, when if they had like a Dark Troll Summon or something, it would have been a completely different story. They needed the telekinesis there.
To be honest, I don't think they were going to get that anyway. You've got the stun, you've got Nagastorm's fairly close by, and he had Carapace as well. I doubt they were going to get the kill, because they don't have that. They don't have good burst. Darkseid takes a little while to get rolling. Rubik is still only level 4, and Chen, I mean, he would need a really high roll on his Test of Faith. That'd be pretty much the only thing you can get him in. And if you jump in with all that like attempt to kill Pilot Eye, Razor's sitting right here. And then you've burned all your disables on him, now Razor sweeps in. He's got level 6, and he'll wreck everybody, because Chen still doesn't have his ult yet.
Yeah, it's all about how much damage Razor could put out, because I have no doubt, with a Telekinesis and a Centaur Stone, they could have gotten a kill, but that Razor definitely could retaliate once those are on cooldown. You're absolutely correct there, so... yeah, we'll see exactly how much this Razor's farm will be making a difference. Down at bottom, it looks like Era's going to be able to pick up Pilot Eye. Pilot Eye should be able to Carapace this last one. Infest changes that story very, very quickly. Nicely done by Era. Just had barely enough mana. Like, I think he actually timed it, so he had enough mana for all three. That's just, I mean, how well this guy knows his hero. But either way, Lifestealer using all of his abilities to take on down the Nyx Assassin very nicely down on bottom. Meanwhile, a lot of pressure being put on the mid lane with Fly and No Tail's creeps continuously spawning these tiny little skeletons.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much pressure that Arteezy's actually gone to screw this lane, and he's pulled his Lone Druid out of the lane. They do need, I feel like they need to defend this. Meanwhile, though, oh, poured out there. Just in time. Trixie getting the hell out of dodge there. But I feel like they need to defend this. I don't really feel like they can let this mid tower go. They need to keep this they need to keep these towers up and running, because once they start losing space to farm, I feel like Kaipi's lineup has the potential to fall apart once they start losing that room, because we're going to see Fnatic get a lot more aggressive, especially once Puck manages to pick up. Nyx though should be able to escape here. Will manage to port away. Fortunately for him, no stuns to interrupt that just at the moment. Lifesteal though are going to grab up his own set of drums. It's going to be shipped out to him fairly soon. Meanwhile, the mid tower, Lone Druid has returned to defender, but Chen's still doing some work on that. And like you said, summons there with his skeletons, and they're just going to keep working. Naga moves in though, gets the net down. Do they have a follow-up? No follow-up disables really. They should be just fine.
Meanwhile, down bottom, Era's going to get locked down here. Too much damage coming in from Eternal Envy, but it looks like the Puck will be able to juke aside with the Ethereal Jaunt up top, and yeah, he was going to be able to get on out of there. But the big kill there is Razor TPing in right when they were able to lock down the lifesteal on the cog. So good timing, good positioning. They get a very, very important kill for Razor.
I want to make a point that Razor actually went for Max. This is something we don't usually see. Like, on the odd occasion we see Razor, generally speaking, the first skill Max is Static Link. But in this case, he actually opted to pick up maxed out Plasma Field first. I'm not sure how I feel about that. That said, I mean, it's only one level difference, so not the end of the world in terms of difference in skill build, but there's just that, for anybody who's curious. Nagasoro now has got her Arcane Boots, so this is going to help them out with mana sustain. Just checking on Nyx, has he got some yet? I think Nyx might have been doing the majority of the support of the warding here, because he's looking fairly poor at the moment. Of course, he has died a couple of times as well, whereas Nagasaro only died once. She's got a kill as well on her name. Meanwhile, though, that mana burn working its magic on Trixie. Trixie not really enjoying that at all. We're probably going to see Nyx he's almost hit 6. Once he gets that, a lot more aggressive. That said, ports are coming top. We do have Puck on the way, but reinforcements are coming from Kaipi as well. Razor is fairly close by.
Yeah. They kind of show their hand a little bit with that cast animation. Nyx Assassin was going to go in for a stun to set up the hook shot from Clockwork, but luckily they already have this Radiant Ward in place, so wherever Bone 7 is hiding, they're fully aware of his position, and it looks like, yeah, Radiant Vision they are going to see Come With Me and Eternal Envy all rotating up here, so Fnatic has all the knowledge they need to make the responsive play, either putting more pressure on the bot lane or rotating up top. Either way, they're going to be able to make the call they need to move on forward. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Demolish is up and active on the Bear, which is going to be picking up its Midas, although a little bit belated, as it just chows down on this mid-tier 1. So damage pressure put in on the tier 2 bottom, but most of the rotation is actually going to be going up on the top lane to force back everybody here.
Normally I'd say the Midas is really greedy on the bear when I don't think they can really afford to be that greedy. That said, it is against Chen, so that's always good. Between Infest as well as the Midas, that's a huge pain in the butt. Oh dear, Paladino throws out a stun, going to go through the Rager. Arrow going to charge right on through. We see the steal there as he picks up Mana Burn for Fly, but they will burst down Nyx 4v1. Not really fair odds for him at all as his teammates decide, you know what, screw you, abandon him.
Big fortification on mid.
She got there.
If Lone Druid doesn't get this tower, this is a huge loss for them, because the whole point of picking up Lone Druid is that first big tower, but Puck is to deny, and they're going to get the bear kill as well. That's going to be 300 gold, and it's going to go... No, actually, a hookshot will stop him from dying. Trixie getting close to him and finishes him off with the Ion Shell. 300 gold for him, and Bone 7 should be forfeit as well, though he does get the battery assault, and that's enough for him to walk away. So, yeah, that's just all going the way of Fnatic right here. Up on top, he's trying to bring down Eternal Envy, but does get netted up, so it's going to be difficult without the Infest to really lock him down. So just kind of breaking tower aggro and continuing to push up top. But the big thing here is getting the kills where they want them and getting that deny against Lone Druid.
Yeah, I feel like there was a misplay there from Arteezy. Like, basically, Clockwork jumped in, burned a hook shot, burned all of his health there to try and save the bear, and then Arteezy immediately turned around. I think it was Miss Micro, turned his hero and the bear around and walked straight back into an Iron Shell and killed it. And, I mean, that was costly there, because they could have, if they hadn't burned all those heroes down in the mid lane, they could have rotated to the top lane to kill Nakes. Nakes was jumping in deep, and Naga Siren could have opened up with a song there and just held him in place for a good 5-6 seconds while the TPs came through.
Absolutely.
And that would have been a very dead era.
They didn't have the resource, unfortunately. Also, Eternal Envy's Plasma Field, as you were talking about, just really not on point there. It didn't hit any heroes, just farming up the creep wave a little bit, but now you've given it to Rubik, and he's going to actually be able to do more with it with his higher mana pool. So they're pushing, they've got the Fade Bolt going, Iron Shield, Centaurs everywhere. This is a very scary push. And now we are going to see Arteezy mid put some damage on the tower. If Song of Siren does come on through, is it going to be enough to keep them up? No, Era gets the last right click, raging despite the song. His deaf ears will allow him to just keep on going and finishing off that Razor. Now going on, he's going to be surged across, trying to go for a courier pick, but it has haste and is in the tree. So Come With Me is the target of choice, but she gets the ensnare off. Can she get out of range in time? The last right click, welcome back. There's the Infest. Nice play by Era. So he does have that in level 11, gets the rank 2 Infest, and will just TP to safety. Well, meanwhile, they've taken the tier 1. They're defending the tier 2 in mid, trying to bring down Bone 7 here. Fly has the Plasma Field coming off cooldown with the Surge, and will be able to get enough damage here to bring down him. So really, really just good rotation, good movement, great TPs, and very responsive play from Fnatic. Now trying to finish off Lone Druid. I don't think they can do it without the Dream Coil, though.
Looks like Ara's going to decide not to dive on.
Oh, another bear to kill, though.
That bear's worth 300 gold. Let's kill that.
And it's on cooldown, I believe. No, it actually just came off. But still, 300 gold, giving that to Era this time around. They've gotten 600 in just a few moments. Fly being sent on home, though. They're not going to be able to push as aggressively as they intend to, but the song is on cooldown, and that's actually really substantial early on.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the problem is with the bear. Sure, losing the bear is a big pain in the butt, but right now, the bear doesn't actually have any items, so it's not a huge threat just yet. I mean, unless he gets some really lucky root procs, because Rabbit is only level 1, so with the level 1 Rabbit, no items at all. I mean, it doesn't even have boots at this point in time. So it's got no attack speed, it's got nothing in terms of damage output, so it's not really much of a problem. The biggest threat here is the Razor, and the question is, oh, they break the link. That was unfortunate there. That link is sustained. They could have really jumped in for a good kill, but a test of faith gonna send Nakes home. That was definitely unfortunate. I mean, if Razor had picked up a ton of damage, they could have counterattacked off that really well. Should also mention Razor. I think he's bought something. Just saw a whole...
No, just drums face. He's actually going for a really transitional build, like Ring of Aquila and picking up the drums. Like, these aren't big items. These are very gradual. You'll get them to kind of boost your early game. But when it comes down to it, you're going to be lacking at items when it comes down to the 20-25 minute mark when you really, really want that first big thing. And I mean, it works because Razor needs kind of a good mix of things, survivability, mobility, damage, but right now, it's not doing them any favors.
I think the problem is they don't have the option to be greedy. Like, he doesn't have the option to be greedy and go for a big item because the amount of pressure that Fnatic are throwing on them. And right now they're behind on towers. Fnatic have managed to pick up a whole bunch of towers in a row, and they're looking to be in a very bad position. And with Lone Druid so far behind in terms of farm, he did not really do that well in mid. In the end, he got forced out. Like, they lost their mid tower fairly on, got forced out of there, had to go to the jungle every now and then, got ganked a couple of times. So he's got no items right now. He's still working. I think he might actually be just going straight Radiance. Or he's trying to anyway. He's sitting on 1800 gold. I feel like if he was trying to go for a battle bow build, we'd already see some items on the Spirit Bear.
Yeah, I agree with you in that sentiment, but really, if he goes for Radiance, I feel like that's automatically losing the game. At this stage, Fnatic is up over 7,500 in gold, and a decent amount in experience as well. If he tries to save up that much gold, there's no way that they can hold their tier 2s, their tier 3s. And so
I agree.
He has to be very, very decisive in what he goes for, because right now the pressure is on, and it's going to continue to be the case. I mean, Armlet and Mechanism were bought out a little bit earlier by Fnatic to push down the tier 2, and those items are really, really strong at this stage in the game. 250 healing across a 5-man team and some creeps, and possibly also the Wall of Replica Illusions. Like, that's amazing healing potential in synergy with the Hand of God. You add on top of that the Armlet, which gives so much right-click potential. If they can't kite the Lifestealer, they're already dead.
I mean, that's the biggest deal. Like, you bring it up. The fact that they've got these core items for their supports, and Kaipi do not. They don't have, like, Clockwork doesn't have squad at the moment. He's still trying to build drums. Like, he's pretty squishy. Against the Nakes, like, he's not that tough to kill at all right now, because he's still trying to build drums. All he's got's the Road of the Magi. Now he's got to hook in now, going to try and jump in on Arrow. Immediately regrets that decision, and TP's out. And they get cancelled there by the Vacuum. Nicely played by Trixie.
Nice.
Can they manage to jump in on him? Looks like the Arrow has decided to give chase to the Lone Druid. Not going to happen though. TP's out. They will lose the Bear yet again. That Bear has died an absolute crapload. Razor comes in, pops his ult though. Yeah, Trixie will back out. I think that's a bit of a waste of the ult. That's going to be down for a good 80 seconds. And we may even see Fnatic try and make a play on the tier 2 top now. They know that's down.
Yeah, they tried to ult and drum in if the Trixie kept on going, but if they went anywhere further west, they would have been completely pincered in by the rest of Fnatic, and it would have been a terrible mistake. So, good to not feed hardcore, but of course he did waste a couple cooldowns there. Come with me going for the song. No, he can't because of the rage. He just gets right-click down. So, dominating spree for Era. And right now, just Kaipi don't have a handle on this game. There's just so much pressure coming on in, and with that Vacuum canceling out Bone 7's TP, that is what allowed them to get the kill. Essentially, because they had to commit the Dream Coil to actually have any chance at all to kill the Lone Druid, they only had one stun at their disposal, but they used it well. They still got the Clockwork, and yeah, they are just racking up the kills right now. 11-4 and ganking up. Oh my gosh, Arteezy, what is he doing down here? Obviously, he thought, okay, they're all on top lane. They ganked me up there. They couldn't possibly rotate down here, but Fnatic proved them wrong very quickly. They're very mobile. I think the best trait about this team is how effective they are at controlling the entire map. That's why they were the Rat Dota boys. I mean, this is what they do, is control every single angle and just punch in really, really quickly, and Arteezy pays for it.
I'm just looking at Kaipi. I'm just wishing that Lone Druid was a Dirge. And just right now they need team fight. Like, their only team fight potential right now from Kaipi, it's all on that Razor. Everything is on MV's shoulders. He's got to carry these fights, and he just can't. Like he's got some good damage, but he's just not got enough to deal with Chen's heal, to deal with the early mech, to deal with all the items that the supports of Fnatic picked up. I mean, we've got an Urn on Rubik. They've got Arcane Boots. They've got the sustain to fight through this. And with Lone Druid being so underwhelming as he is right now, where he's still trying to finish off a Maelstrom at 20 minutes in, and he's got nothing on the Bear at all. Like, he's just a dead weight in these fights. So they're practically fighting 4v5, and on top of that, they're up against the huge potential that Fnatic have. So there's just no way for the Razor to hold this alone. But if you had something like the Dirge, I mean, I think it would have done a ton better in the mid lane on top of that. As well as the fact that he'd be contributing so much better to these fights. I mean, you work that with something like a Naga Siren. You got sustain the heals from Dirge, and on top of that, you throw down a Tombstone while you're setting up a fight with the Song. That is a huge pain in the butt to deal with. And on top of that, Fnatic, they don't have the heroes that can reliably and easily knock out a Tombstone either. But we're going to see now they're going to jump in on Come With Me. Pops the Song. Rage does not care. That was a waste too. That's a level 1 Song. It's down for 3 minutes. That was not... so far, I will give credit to Nagasaur in this game has been very restraintful in terms of Song. She's not been blowing it when it's not going to do anything. But in that case, it was total panic buttons.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's big waste.
Yeah, and it's really it's unfortunate, but Kaipi can't do anything about this Roche. The ward coverage by Fnatic is insane. In the mid lane, covering up in that position, anybody comes to the Swords of Secret Shop, and that one specifically, catching up the Naga Siren over towards the Ancients, just really covering it perfectly from every angle. There's no way they could have punched on into that one. And on top of that, the Nyx Assassin's Vendetta being on cooldown, trying to go for a courier pickoff, which was just out-juked by Captain Bamboo. It just... In general, they didn't have any tools to contest this Roshan, so Aegis Immortal goes to Lifestealer. He picks up a Sanji Yasha for some cheap and easy stats, and the net will come on in to finish. Oh no! Unfortunately, it was in the main cast animation, but all they get is for their trouble is the bear, yet again.
Oh, that bear. Somebody report the bear, it's feeding too much. It looks like we're going to have the rotation top. Fnatic going to move up here to defend. And it looks like Kaipi, they're not going to push anywhere. They're just going to back down a little bit. Razor, though, working towards... I mean, that could be a BKB at this point in time. And I actually agree... Like, if it's a BKB, I do agree with it, just because they need something to get rid of the open wounds. And also, just... If he gets jumped by Puck, he needs a way to disengage very quickly. He does not want to... Because, I mean, Razor, if he gets caught out and burst down quickly, it's game over for Kaipi. It's Razor or nothing at this point in time.
Good move from Kaipi. They're going to be flanking. Oh, the hookshot misses, though! And they can't slow him down. They can't even get in with the stun. Era goes in deep, but the stun does nothing. Impale on cooldown. They have to walk away from this. Their positioning was perfect, but they're going to get nothing out of it.
That's, yeah, somewhat unfortunate. Also should mention that Era has also picked up Sanjin Yasha for his Lifestealer as well. And it actually looks like they're going to take down the tier 2 in this point in time. We've just got Era and No-Tail. They're just providing a bit of a buffer zone, just scouting and pushing back Kaipi. Kaipi getting bottled in towards the bottom side of the map. This is opening up the map. It looks like Trixie and Fly are just going to force down the tower. While the rest of them are actually going to jump in and raise it down, potentially in some trouble. He's fast, but Lifesteal also very quick. Drums, that's how desperate MB is. Pops to Drums, still gets hit by the open wounds. He should be able to walk away here, though. There's no follow-up. Net's coming in. In fact, he's getting a gun for it now. He's taking a lot of damage, though, stealing a lot of damage in return. The blink forward, Hanny's on top of it, and this is probably going to be Envy down. There we go. Waiting Rip to finish, and Naga Siren also going to fall in a second as well. There is no escape for her. None at all.
There's just so much potential for them to close the distance. They have a 4-staff up on Trixie, obviously not playing a role there, but Hani with his Blink Dagger, and yeah, the Purge isn't maxed out from Razor, so the Static Remnant didn't do too much, or Unstable Concurrent didn't do too much there. It looks like Fly will get picked, though. He does get 4-staff out by Trixie, mech'd up by Trixie. There's a vacuum and a wall. They can even turn this around with Telekinesis Fable. He walks away from this. He has Earn Charges, and he just kills Bone 7 with his own Rocket Flare. What a play right there. Keeping him alive against all odds. I mean, you get hookshot as a Rubik at 23 minutes of the game. You underneath the tier 2 tower that's attacking you. You expect to be dropped down, but the way they play that, he walks away and he's going to be full health in a second with another Earn Charge. Like, just amazing in that little 2v2. I mean, in general, Fnatic has been playing an incredible game. Almost no mistakes whatsoever, but right here, just too strong.
I should mention a big part of that. Like, he has actually gone for a fairly standard build. If you're going for early aggression, generally with Rubik, generally speaking, if you're going for those push lineups, you get early levels in Null Field. He's got a level 3 Null Field, only gone for 2 in Telekinesis, but there we go. Era now being hit by Static Link pretty badly, lost a lot of damage. Envy now moving in, gonna pop the Plasma Field. Roots go down on Fly. Fly gonna force himself away though. Stun comes out, Nyx misses everything. Bear gets netted once again. They're gonna back up, and nobody goes down here. Although that's it, I might have spoken too soon as Puck manages to disjoint as he gets hit by the roots. Puck is going to go down there, gets picked off. Gem is on the ground. And now Trixie also falling. Definitely a good turnaround there. Impale goes out, catches No-Tail. Song on the siren to slow things down, to let them catch and gain ground on No-Tail. I think No-Tail's out of spells now. No-Tail getting boxed in there. They're also going for Era, although it looks like Era will finish off Razor. And now, I feel like they've got to run now in return, although No-Tail will get picked off regardless.
Is he going
Era now, is he going to try and 1v4?
I want to see it. I mean, he has the Aegis. He almost could manage it, but I think they could cut him just enough so that they could all walk away with like 20% HP and at least claim the Aegis. But yeah, even so, he is just a monster right now. Very, very scary. Big movement speed advantage in general. Did he even pick up the gem? I swear I thought that Eternal Envy glanced at it, but apparently he thinks his TV scroll...
Envy got it back and then died.
Oh, yeah, he killed Envy. I completely I forgot about that part. Okay, so yeah, he just picked off Envy, was able to reclaim the gem for themselves, and buys a Basher. And in all that, Rubik yet again, Fly just gets Test-to-Face back home, survives with 50 HP, buys himself a Blink Dagger, and is just ready to add on to that spree of initiation they have. As long as Kaipi's song is on cooldown, Fnatic have nothing stopping them from just jumping on in and demolishing Kaipi at every single opportunity.
I want to make note of Puck's build this game. He's gone straight for the Yules and the Blink down. This is sort of an older build. The fact that you go for the Yules afterwards, it is a very risky build because it leaves you incredibly glass. This is why we often see Puck go for stuff like the Hex afterwards, or anything that gives him a bit of health because he's very, very squishy. On this case, though, not a lot of burst damage from Kaipi, so he can afford to go for that. On top of that, it lets him disjoint stuff like the net. Like, he managed to dodge the net in the middle of that fight as well. Should also mention, speaking of net, Nagasiren going to try and pick off Chen. Chen heals himself up, though, with Hand of God, and actually they will back off. And whilst I think they just spotted the entire Fnatic team rushing at Chen's aid there, they decided, you know what, don't have the burst, nukes are down, let's get the hell out of here. I think it's a smart choice to do there. And it looks like they may even pick off Nyx.
Yeah.
Nyx getting Yulesed up there, getting pinned down there. We're going to see, gets a waning rip down as well. He didn't pop the Carapace. In fact, he couldn't. It's on cooldown. And a steal. What did Rubik get? Picks up his own Carapace there as well.
Yeah, just didn't have a scroll. So, yeah, you can try to get out of dodge after realizing that you're in over your head, but unfortunately the TP wasn't available, and Nyx just has to head for the hills. Not going to get on out of that one, though. They're just in a really bad spot. Actually, realizing that Nyx's Assassin Spike Carapace is only at rank 1. He's only level 9, first and foremost, and he's also decided to max the mana burn. Good against Darkseer and Puck as far as their level of intellect, and therefore getting a lot of damage and mana taken out. But really, in this situation, you just need to survive as much as possible, and I feel like the Carapace could do a lot. Either way, it doesn't really matter what his item build was, because the problem is, or his skill build, the problem is he's level 9, and no matter what skills he'd be choosing, he still is getting just munched on really easy by these high damage output heroes.
I actually agree with the choice to skill up mana build first here, because in this case, like, he's playing a support role. He doesn't have the grunt, or the tankies to run in the middle of a team fight and try and Carapace everybody. He'll just die really quickly. On top of that, right now, Kaipi, they're trying to hold off. They're trying to play the delaying game, trying to get Bear back into the game, because the Bear is really underfarmed. They're trying to buy time for Bear to re-enter the game. And for that to prevent the push, like, one of the things you need when you're pushing hard early on is mana. So if he just continues slapping them with mana burn, he can slow down quite significantly. If Puck tries to keep going to a fight and he doesn't have any mana to use his spells, like Chen keeps wandering around the fight, keeps losing all of his mana, suddenly you've got to back the hell down. So for Darkseer, if he keeps getting slammed by mana burn and doesn't have anything to use for the fight, they've got to back off. It buys them time. So I can agree with the mana burn being skilled up because it significantly reduces the cooldown.
Yeah.
Whereas he doesn't really have the option. Like Carapace, aside from the stun length, it blocks as much and it's a survivability tool for him as much at level 1 as it is at level 4. Although speaking of survivability, it looks like the Bear has none because he's getting slammed there. Bear goes down yet again, up in the top lane, 4v1, not really anything you could do about that, but I think he was really too deep with no ward coverage.
Yeah.
I think Kaipi, they could have had a much better game. This could have been a turning point for them during that last fight if they kept the gem, because they'd take all of that map control away from Fnatic, and that would have been a very big deal. And they'd actually get their own ward coverage back up, because I mean that's the big deal. Not only would they get their map, like get rid of the enemy ward coverage, but they would get their own back up, because right now they cannot keep wards anyway, because everywhere they go, Fnatic just break them. So they've got no line of sight, and they have to play really defensively and have no room to farm, which results in an underfarmed Bear.
Exactly. And if I were that Spear Bear, I'd be really questioning the symbiotic relationship between himself and the Lone Druid. Like, every single time he goes on out, he just seems to get killed, and it's just not really good for them at all. At least this time the Druid went down with him, but really, this Lone Druid has been having a really rough game. Arteezy, in general, obviously not a hero that he prefers compared to a lot of more skill-based heroes, but in this situation, just they're punishing him every time he tries to go out and farm. They're going to try to bring on Era, but the hookshot is actually only going to connect onto our Eternal Envy, and as a result, Era just walks away from this. Now, as far as the item count for Kaipi, I'm not even sure if they're confident in this position, because they only have a BKB on Razor, they only have a Blade Mail in the Clockwork. Like, they don't have anybody to brawl on the front line. They don't have anybody to tank things up. And as a result, Fnatic can just wipe the floor with literally the first person they see in any engagement.
I really disagree with the Blade Mail choice here. I don't think it's going to help him out against Era at all. Era is just going to sort of obliterate him while he's raged anyway, so I don't think Blade Mail's going to bring anything to the table for him. I feel like he almost should just go and screw it and picked up something like a BKB. At least then, if he gets open wound to get the hell out, or if he could ignore the puck and stuff like that, wouldn't need to worry about burn from Iron Shell. Because I mean, most of this is just Era. Look at this. He's going to get hit by the medallion. Doesn't even care. His stun's going to come through there. Not really going to do a whole lot. The rage going right through some of the side. Era just backs up towards his team, getting hit by the root, but it's not going to matter too much at all. Cogs comes in, going to try and split Era. Trixie get pushed away by the Cogs. Era though just jumps straight back in, going to go after the bear. Now there's a lot of potential health for him to take. Open wounds get again. Hook shot in. Vacuum as well. But down goes the Lone Druid, and best to finish him off. And Razor, it's all on Envy now. Envy goes down as well, and this looks pretty. Yeah, there we go. There's to GG.
Absolutely. Wow, Era, like, they have so many ways to lock Era down, and he could care less about, he ignored half the song, and then the rage expired, but he was in a great position to survive. He gets cogged in. They have so many ways to just punish him and screw him over, and now he's has at his back Trixie with an amazing vacuum wall replica, the mechanism, he has his armlet. Really, there's just nothing they can do to punish Fnatic's positioning, and so they just move on forward. That we see them closing in towards 20,000 gold advantage, and that towards 15,000 of the experience advantage. They just have, from the get-go, controlled this game from beginning to end. And despite I would say a really good draft from Kaipi as far as their mentality against Era's Lifestealer as the fifth pick of Fnatic, it just doesn't pan out when Fnatic control every single lane, not by hero to hero. Their laning phase in that sense was, it was okay. It wasn't bad. They controlled last hits on most of the lanes except for mid, but the movement, the timing to push, to counter push, to fortify and get denies on towers, in general, everything about the early game, everything about the mid game, perfect for Fnatic, and that set them up for the late game as we saw.
I'm going to say, in this game, I agree with you. I like the draft. I think Kaipi's draft was fine. There was nothing really wrong with it. Maybe you could have thrown out Lone Druid for something else, but I think the biggest issue with this lineup was, with the Kaipi this game, was Lone Druid did not have a good game. Arteezy did not have a good game. And their lineup revolved around that Lone Druid being a sort of a big bit of pressure around about the 25-minute mark and them going on the offensive. But because Lone Druid fell so far behind, went greedy, went for the Midas, didn't get his early items, he had nothing to offer. Suddenly Kaipi had to play defensively. They're losing a lot of ground for Fnatic, and Fnatic just snowball out of control from there on out. And that, I think, is what really let them down. I think the draft overall was fine. And let's be honest, Arteezy did not have a great game. He made some questionable choices, made some questionable plays, got picked off here and there, and it just sort of all fell out of control for him.
Mm-hmm. So there we have it. The number one Razor, only getting 328 GPM, comparing that to Era's amazing 606. Yeah, just comparatively speaking, it was Fnatic's game, 100%. Open and closed book. They put those points on the board. They're going to move it on into the quarterfinals, which will be up against Evil Geniuses. As a reminder, guys, Alliance is unfortunately having some internet issues, having just moved into a new house. So they are not able to play in the Cup today. That means Evil Geniuses advances on forward. Fnatic will be playing against Evil Geniuses at a later period of time. As far as our next game, our schedule has been updated so that we're going to be pushing things forward an hour, and that means that we're going to be looking at... sorry, I just now read it, but lost it. What was it? Virtus Pro versus Rockschmidt should be correct.
I believe so. Let me double check. I had it open a second ago. I've lost it as well.
Yeah, Roxas versus Virtus Pro is what we're going to be looking at next. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to see. Thank you guys so much for tuning on into this one here. Fnatic fighting and taking it away. Kaipi, with this loss, have absolutely no hope of qualifying for the top 4 slots. It's just mathematically impossible for them to advance. So they will still play on the next cup, try to give it their best fighting shot. But as far as qualifying for the Premier Cup and trying to win some prize money out of the tournament, this was their last stand, and unfortunately they did crumble.
No, they are still in it, potentially. They have to win, come first next week.
No, because Virtus Pro win points automatically with quarterfinals.
They get 18 points.
Or semifinals.
If Virtus Pro come fourth at 18 points, because I'm pretty sure Kaipi already have a 4th spot.
Sure.
They have 18 points as well. So, that would tie them up at 118 each. And then they would play off for the 4th spot, potentially. But then again, actually, it depends also how Fnatic go as well. Fnatic could overtake both of them.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I think you're right. No, they're screwed. Fnatic, if Virtus Pro screw up, Fnatic will take their spot. I take that back. Yeah, Kaipi is stuffed.
There we go. So we'll see how the next series plays on out, but that was essentially Kaipi's last opportunity to qualify, and now we're going to look at Roxas's last one, because essentially they cannot be eliminated from this cup before the... Well, I don't know. Like we were saying, it's theoretically possible they could win cup number 5, but they have to win against Virtus Pro if they have any chance. It's just what I'm looking at here. So, there we go. Moving on to the next cup, or the next matchup, Roxas versus Virtus Pro, in just a minute here. Thank you guys so much for tuning on into the Premier League Season 5 Daedalus Cup. Not seeing any crits just yet, but I'm sure we have some awesome games of Dota in store with some very, very fun action. Either way, Fnatic playing very well. We're going to be seeing them against Evil Geniuses later, but for now, Roxas versus Virtus Pro. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been Blaze and Triumph. We'll catch you guys on the next one.